Hi, this is Paul. Welcome to my review of the Umbrella Academy with spoilers. Okay, I did a spoiler-free review for the most part on my other channel, my main channel, Trepacer, and you can follow the link in the description box below if you want to see that review. But this review is going to have spoilers in it. Okay, the Umbrella Academy, of course, is based on the Dark Horse comics, and and it was 10 episodes on Netflix. I just got through watching the last of it this morning, the last two episodes. Uh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, I saw like, the first 5 episodes, I think, on Sunday, and then I kind of watched one or two episodes, I think, during the week, and then I watched some last night and then finished it off this morning. Uh, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. Basically, the story of Sir Reginald Hargreaves, a billionaire industrialist. Basically, they say in October 1989, he adopted, there was, I think, 43 births on the same day. Women that weren't previously pregnant, they gave birth uh, on the same day to 43 kids, and obviously he was able to only get seven of those to basically bribe them and their mothers and take those seven kids, okay, and raise them in his mansion, because they each had powers, and he wanted to raise them to basically save the world, and he formed the Umbrella Academy, which I think was based on the building that he bought. I think it used to be an umbrella factory, but anyway, he raised these kids. And again, it was seven kids originally, okay? And, there were Vanya, Luther, Diego, Allison, Claus, uh, number five, because I don't think he really has a name. And I think, what's the other one called? And Ben. Okay, now, of all these kids, Vanya, he raised six of them to be superheroes and kept them together. And he kind of kept one separated from the rest of them, Vanya, played by Ellen Page. He raised her as kind of separate from. He wouldn't actually allow her. He kept her separate, and for a particular reason. Well, I'll explain that later as I go along. But he kind of kept her isolated from the other six. Okay, and the other six he helped develop their powers. Luther, he's supposed to be number one, and he was the one that was had. He had the powers. He had super strength. Diego, he was good with the knives and stuff, and weapons. And then you had Allison, who was, I guess she had her ability was that she could whisper, uh, like she could whisper a rumor, and then whatever she whispered would come true. Okay, and then you had Claus, who could communicate with the dead. Okay, and then you had number five, who could time jump, and I think Ben had the power to pull creatures from other dimensions like that. So he raised them together, and somewhere during the course line, they don't really explain it in the miniseries, but Ben dies. Okay, and slowly but surely, as these kids grow up, they kind of go their own separate ways. And again, to explain their relationships, Luther and Allison, they kind of take to liking each other. Now remember, they're adopted kids, so they're not blood related, but they were raised together. But they have feelings for each other. But slowly but surely, as these kids grow up, they kind of go off one at a time. And Luther is the last one there, literally. Okay, so and everybody else just kind of goes off their own separate ways. Okay, and like I said, Vanya has been taught and raised that she's not special, even though she was born on the same day as everybody else, and she doesn't have powers. Okay, but she's raised there, by him, but she's basically been told that she's nothing special. She doesn't, and she's again kept isolated from the rest of the kids, but told that she doesn't have any powers. Okay, and she writes a kind of a tell-all book as she grows up. She writes a tell-all book, and this movie kind of begins with them all coming back together upon the death of their father, Sir Reginald Hargreaves. When he dies, they come back basically for the funeral. Oh yeah, and also number five, he disappeared 16 years ago. He just vanished. Again, his power was time jumping, and he wanted to basically jump to the future, and his father was telling him not to do that, but he was stubborn and he did it anyway, and then he seemingly vanished for 16 years. Anyway, this family comes back together for the funeral, and of course they're totally dysfunctional, so of course they're arguing with each other even when they're coming back together for the funeral. And on the night of the funeral, okay, that's when number five comes back. He basically literally comes back through a time hole, and we find out that he actually was living uh, in the future, and he lived, I think, like 58 years, and he actually joined a kind of a time bureau that would go around and send people to basically make sure, and he trained him to be an assassin, and he actually went around, working with the time bureau to make make sure things stayed in the place and happened the way they're supposed to happen. And while he's in the future, he discovers that his family has seemingly died. Okay, the academy is blown up, and his brothers and sisters have died, and that's one of the reasons he actually, he finally is able to travel back in time, and he's back to try to prevent the apocalypse from happening, the world ending. Okay, and that's his purpose of coming back. Okay, and like I said, we have all these different individual stories. Again, Ellen, she wrote that tell-all book. Ellen Page, who plays the character of Vanya, she wrote this tell-all book. So she has a lot of resentment because she was kept isolated from her brothers and sisters, and basically told she wasn't anything special. Okay, and she always had to take her medication and do her lessons and stuff, and so she's kind of isolated from the rest of them. And again, then you have Luther, who was basically sent to the moon by his father, because, like I said, he was the last one there, and he went on a mission, and he got severely injured, and he got basically, to save his life, his father injected him with this monkey virus that kind of grew his body into gave him basically monkey muscles, and you see he always wears this big, like, trench coat, so you can't really see that he really. And then there is one moment in this show where you actually see that, and the other kids don't know that, and they actually see that that's what happened to him when after everyone had left. And then you have Diego, who's actually acting more, who's good with the knives, and he actually becomes a sort of a vigilante, and he goes around, trying to stop crime, and he has a girlfriend that's or an ex that's a cop, and who's always kind of keep him away from, situations, police situations and stuff. And he's, like I said, he's arrogant and stuff, but the only kind of, he's arrogant, and of course he doesn't get along with his brothers and sisters. But his one saving grace, I say, is that they have a character that he calls Mother, that they were raised basically because of their powers. These kids couldn't keep nannies, so Sir Reginald Hargreaves built a robot, a female robot, who they called Mother, who the kid would raise the kids and would be called Mother. And he also had an ape that he, I guess he trained it to speak, or I don't forget how they ever explain how but his name is Pogo, and basically it was Pogo and the mother who basically raised, he basically raised these kids. So again, when they come back together, again, Diego's his saving grace is that, despite the fact he's an asshole, that you see that he's really a mama's boy, literally. Okay, and then you have Claus, who can communicate with the dead, and of course he's a drug addict also at the same time to try to cope with seeing the dead and stuff. And of course he's the only one who could see his late brother Ben, who actually comes to him from time to time. His brother Ben, who died, and he can actually see. Okay, and then you have, again, I said number 5, okay, who can time travel, who comes back to warn them. And then you have, again, Allison, who's like a movie star now. Okay, and like I said, she basically has lost custody of her kid because she used her rumor power on her daughter one night to get her to to go to bed, be tired, and go to sleep. So she's estranged from her daughter, seeing her daughter, so misses her daughter. Okay, and I think, and that's the best of it. And so basically, you also have these other two characters, Cha-Cha and Hazel, played by Mary J. Blige, who plays Cha-Cha, and Karen Britton, who plays Hazel. They're two hitmen literally sent back by this Time Bureau to stop number 5 and to stop number 5 because they know the Time Bureau know that he's coming back to try to stop the apocalypse, and they, their job is to keep the timeline the same way, and so they get sent back to try to stop him. Okay, and so those are two interesting characters. Now, again, this movie deals with this dysfunctional relationship between all these various brothers and sisters and stuff. And again, number 5, the character and the actor played by Aidan Gather, I like him the most because, like I said, he's literally a 58-year-old man in a teenager's body. Because when he travels back in time, he literally changes back into his teenage self the same way he was when he left, when he disappeared. And so he's trying to stop the apocalypse, and also at the same time avoid these two hitmen and everybody that they sent him back, the Time Bureau sent back to try to kill him. Okay, but the actor does a really good job of playing, playing older than he looks. And again, his power is to, he can jump through time, and he can jump from here to there by jumping through time. And his character is the most interesting to me, and he's and he seems like he always has a plan, while the rest of the family is sort of fumbling around and stuff and doing their own thing. And Vanessa and excuse me, Vanya, played by Ellen Page, is the oldest, who's been told all her life that she's nothing, that she doesn't have any powers, she's not special. She actually meets a man who actually tells her that she is special, and he basically stops her from taking her medication. And later we find out that she is the most powerful out of all the kids. She is the most powerful and has the potential to literally cause the apocalypse. Okay, and there's some great scenes with her, and her and her siblings and stuff. And then when she finally, she meets the guy, I forgot the character's name. Leonard Peabody. That's the character. She meets him because he kind of comes to her for a lesson, because she gives violin lessons, and he kind of starts, basically hitting on, inviting her to dinner and stuff, and he starts to, throw her medication out, and we find out later that he was actually, as a kid, he was born on the same day as these other, special kids, but he doesn't have any powers and stuff, and because he was rejected by Reginald Hargreaves, he's making it his mission to unleash. They actually show. There's a great scene, a great foreshadowing scene, even though you don't know it at the time, when after when the father dies, and Claus goes through his stuff and basically steals this like a box that has all these important papers in it, and he kind of dumps them in the trash and goes off to sell it. And you see this guy comes and he finds the papers that explains about Vanya's powers and how he given her medication to suppress her powers. So that's he introduces himself by signing up for lessons for her, and he kind of gets her to, throws away her medicine and basically gets her powers to come out. And it's a really good moment, because you see again Ellen Page plays it really good, because again her character's been told she's nothing all along, and she and that her siblings kind of resent her for writing the tell-all book and stuff, but you see that she's hurt that she was kept separate and apart from her siblings, and then when she finally finds out that she actually has powers and she unleashes them, and she finds out that that her sister, who she always wanted to be close to, Allison, was kind of forced to by their father to tell her, to make her forget that she has powers and stuff, and she kind of unleashes herself on her sister and on Leonard when she finds out what his true motive is. And it's some great powerful moments when she finally and then we find out, of course, that she is the reason that the apocalypse is going to happen, and the family has to kind of come together to try to stop her from literally destroying the world. And it's just some great act. And again, these hitmen also played by Mary J. Blige and Cameron Britton. We spend time with them as well, and we get to know that, especially that the Hazel character is kind of he's kind of worn out from doing this all the time, and he's kind of looking for something different. And or Mary J. Blige's character of Cha-Cha, she's used to this, and she just wants to keep doing this, and she's happy with it, with what they're doing and stuff. And he's just not liking it as much, and he's kind of burnt out by it all, of course. And what I really like about the show, even though with all the dysfunction, with these family members that can't get along together, it is ultimately about family. Okay, about Vanya physically wanting to be close to her siblings who can't basically stand each other, but they have to kind of come together to save the world and to stop Vanya. And we have these other little stories going on here and there, and it's just absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed it a lot. Again, there's action, sci-fi in it, time travel, romance, a little romance in there, action, okay, and just dark humor in this. I really enjoy this show a lot, and I definitely recommend it. And again, it's based on a comic, and they obviously said that the show ends on a cliffhanger, literally. Okay, a great action sequence towards the end where, and there's a great sequence of which I want to mention, like when Vanya loses it when she finds out that Allison made her forget and stuff, and she actually uses her power when she didn't mean it, and she literally slices Allison's throat. So, and of course she's devastated that she almost killed her sister, and they her and Leonard Peabody they go away, but she gets found by Luther, and he kind of they catch her in time to heal her up, but she can't. Of course, obviously can't. She can't speak because she had a throat, throat slashed. Okay, and then we find out, when Vanya trips out when she finds out what Leonard Peabody has done, and he's basically been using her to exploit her power and stuff, and she there's a great sequence where she just unleashes on him. Literally, she just unleashes everything, all her power on him, and just so the visual is just absolutely fantastic. And then she goes back to the mansion to to admit what she's done, and she finds that she's still alive. Allison's still alive, and of course she apologized to Luther and said that that she was sorry that she didn't know that she had this power, and she's so sorry. And Luther kind of comforts her and tells her that yeah I know, and he hugs her, and it looks like a sweet moment, but then he actually squeezes her till she's unconscious, and he traps her in this soundproof room and explains to the other brothers and sisters, listen, she has this power, and he finds out from Pogo, the butler monkey, that she has this power, and that she can literally destroy the world, and that we have to keep her, keep her locked up. And of course, Diego and Claus are, they're arguing back and forth with him, saying, should we do this, should we not? And then you see Allison come down and she sees that Vanya is locked up, and she said, no, let her, she can't speak, so she has to write it down and says, let her out, let her out. And Luther says, no, we got to keep her contained because she can literally destroy the world. And at the same time, number 5 is off on his own thing. Number 5, he's literally again with the manager from the Time Bureau, and he's actually talking with her while and while all the kids' siblings are back at the mansion. And he goes up. They literally go back upstairs and leave her locked up in there. And then you see Vanya is, when she's locked in the soundproof thing, crying in despair, and she sees a reflection in her younger self, basically telling her, listen, okay, they always was jealous of you, okay, unleash your power. And then she unleashes her power and literally rips the soundproof, rips it down literally, and you see her basically destroying the mansion, and everybody else is fleeing. And the brothers and sisters have to flee from the mansion. And you see Vanya, she's basically on her way, and she actually on her way out of the mansion, and she's destroying. And there's a great scene where you see her passing by the kids' rooms when they were little kids, and you see each one of them basically shutting the door on her, just again reminding her of her childhood and how she was kept isolated and stuff, and how she felt alone, and she's literally destroying the mansion as she goes. Okay, and then she comes upon Pogo at the last minute, and he literally tells her, and she asks him, did you know that I had this power, that he was suppressing it, and that he kept me isolated on purpose? And he admits that he did, and that's just, she literally zap, and she kills him, kind of pushes him forward, and he literally gets killed on these antlers that are hanging up by the fireplace. And she literally again destroys the Umbrella Academy, and she's on her way. We don't know at the time, but she's on her way because she has actually a concert that she has to perform at. So she literally goes back to her apartment, gets dressed, and she's on her way to her concert. And of course, number 5 comes back and tells them, listen, this guy Leonard Peabody dying, who he thought earlier that if this guy would die, that would stop the apocalypse. He said, listen, I came back from the future, and it doesn't stop. The apocalypse is still coming. Okay, and they explained to him, listen, Vanya has this power that our father was suppressing all the time, and now she's unleashed it, and she's literally going to destroy the world. So they have to try to stop him. Then they head back, to the concert to try to stop her. Okay, and of course they get attacked by these Time Bureau agents who's trying to stop them from stopping her from doing the killing, basically blowing up the world. And literally so they're fighting them at the same time, fighting the Time Bureau guys, and again trying to stop their sister Vanya at the same time. And they show beautiful visuals where they basically show young Ben. He basically Claus, who can communicate with the dead. He literally gets I guess he channels Ben's power through him, and he literally stops the Time Bureau agents, kills them with his octopus power. And literally killed them all. And of course, then the plan. They come up with a plan. They're going to rush her from all sides, and they literally said they're going to rush up to the stage to to try to stop her, which isn't much of a plan. And then you see they rush from each side, but she manages to stop Claus, number 5, Luther, right? Yeah, right. She managed to stop. Yeah, she managed to stop at the same time, right? Stop Luther, Diego, Claus, and number 5 at the same time. And you see Allison come up from behind her, and she has a gun like she's going to shoot her in the back of the head, but she doesn't. She actually shoots her like right by her ear, and you see that stops her, and her power gets unleashed, and you see it goes up through the skylight and literally goes to the moon. Her power. So instead of blowing up the Earth, it goes to the moon and literally blows a hole in the moon, and then you see the moon starts to break apart, and then you see basically meteors crashing all over the Earth, and you see one big one that's kind of heading for them, that big opening they can see through the opera house. You see it literally coming at them, and then they're sitting in there, and you see she's still alive. She's unconscious, but she's still alive, Vanya, and all the siblings are together right there, and number 5 says, listen, I got an idea, so to stop, literally can stop, maybe, so stop the apocalypse from happening. So he said, let's join hands, and he said, I'm going to time jump us. He said, have you ever done it? He said, no, I've never done it. It's only been him time jumping. So he said, everybody hold hands, and they literally, he's trying his power, and you see it kind of goes in a full circle, and you see them start off as adults, and then everybody, except number 5, who's still a kid technically, physically, and you see all of them, and they're all kids, and you see, they're holding, Vanya, Luther's holding him, and they're all holding hands, and you literally see them time jump, and then that's how it goes off with that cliffhanger. That's how it goes off them with the cliffhanger of them basically doing a time jump. Okay, and again, I really enjoyed the show a lot. The different personalities of the actors, and again, number 5, that actor, what's his name? Aiden Gather, who plays number 5. He's my favorite because I guess his character was the most interesting and stuff, and he had the most interesting life with the time jump and stuff. Being able to live in the future and stuff, and all the things he had to do to try to prevent the apocalypse. So he was my favorite. I like Ellen Page too as Vanya, who was playing this girl who was told she was nothing all along until she literally got used by someone else and then she literally finds out that she has this amazing ability, and she basically is unleashing it as she goes, and she's going to literally destroy the world. So I thought her power was good. I thought all the different actors who played the siblings, I like the guy who played Claus, Robert Sheenan. I thought he was great because he has that ability to see the dead, and he would compensate for that by getting high and basically being an addict because he couldn't deal with seeing all the dead people and stuff. So I thought his character was interesting too. And then you have Allison and Luther, who had, they were kids, and of course they had feelings for each other, and they grew up and they lived their separate lives and stuff, and they come back together as adults, and stuff, and they still have those feelings for each other. So again, I thought all the different actors were pretty good, and I like Diego. He's arrogant. Like I said, the only saving grace for Diego, who was who was good with the knives, was that he actually, he loved the even though it was a robot, the character, the mother character. He was the only one that really, you could tell that he really loved that character. That even though it was a robot, and he was the only one that was really concerned about Mother, even though he knew it was a robot. He still had that deep connection to her. Okay, and I enjoyed this a lot. Again, I thoroughly recommend it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Okay, I definitely recommend it. I can't wait for them to do the sequel. Again, like I said, it ended on a cliffhanger, so hopefully the cliffhanger, they'll resolve, they'll come back, and I'd love to see which way they go, if they, they jump to the future or whatever, and see what happens with it. Anyway, let me know what you think of Umbrella Academy. Let me know what you think. Feel free to leave comments down below, and if you'd like to review, please hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks. Yes. I have links to my social media in the description box: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I also have a link to my other channel, my main channel, Trepacer, in the description box. Please check that out as well. Sub to that as well. And this is Paul saying so long, and take care.